We start with retail. Yeah, we start with retail. Um, ELF. So it did fall into a bunch of supports and did not respect them. And they're trying to find a new level of support, which is whatever happened in 2023 this time of year. I'm okay with it. That was a good support zone. You may drift up to 152. See, that was a short for us up here. Credit call spread, debit put spread. If somebody did these, they made a bundle. Well, now you're going into that. That should be resistance. It's inside of a resistance zone and support below. So that conversation from before, I remember saying support and opportunity. Well, you lived up to it. Up here, it's not an obvious entry point. For me, there's nothing to do here. As far as swing trading, if you're in it, enjoy it. You might get to 150. Etsy, very choppy chart. It's a pandemic chart. 58 should be a limit. So the closer you are to 58, the harder it is to take more upside. Support should be okay. So if you wanted to sell some credit put spreads down there and create income from that, I'm okay with that. They came close to filling a fair value gap down below, but the question mark area, a little bit below that, but then they bounced. So it is choppy, but it is lower lows and lower highs. So there's a small chance it goes to 45. There's a small chance it goes to 63. Otherwise, it's stuck in the middle. It's not a good starting point. Buy the dip if you want to. FDX, definitely not a good starting point. Look left, failed twice before. Yeah, it's an opportunity to break out and get to 340. This has been a target for a long time. And look how many times they hit it and failed. So take out 315 convincingly on a closing basis. You can probably get to 350. That is also a thing. It's not my thing, but it is a thing. If you want to go long, finance it with a credit put spread at least. This one might dip towards 285 to establish footing. I would imagine it's headline heavy this part of the year. Either tonight or tomorrow, you're going to get reports on Black Friday, which shouldn't impact this one. That's a delivery service, not a shopping in person service. But Cyber Monday might move the stock on a headline up or down, unknown. Foot Locker. This stock is too active for such a boring P&L. Earnings in 3 days. I mean, I can't tell you anything that should give you any comfort as far as earnings. If it falls into 22, that's the base they've been bouncing off of. Up here, that's the losing part where the resistance zone. If you get to 26, you can get to 28. Otherwise, expect the dip to 22 to be support. And if you lose 21.5, you go to probably 19.5. I would trade it after the fact. A lot of people think they can trade the earnings with confidence. You're fooling yourself if you think that. Trading with confidence, meaning with a lot of money, you're just gambling. Your odds are 50-50 to get it right. No, Nick, I've been doing it. Okay, then risk your entire fortune on it and you will see what I mean. One day you will wake up penniless. You will be either super fat and with money or super poor. It's a gambling. So trades for fun, maybe, but heavy trades, no, into earnings, gambling. Fortinet broke out, and the target can be 108 on this one. P&L is good. So what is the question? Are you looking for permission to book or looking for an entry point? Permission to book, permission granted. Entry point, if they hold 90, if they lose 90, they give you 83. So sell a put or a put spread to get involved below 83, and I think that would be a, quote, safe trend trade, not investment, trend trade, to be long without having to wait for the dip. You can give yourself the dip by selling the put at risk of getting in trouble there. Upside potential, the moon. You know, the trigger is 100, of course. Mini trigger is 97. GLD, I wouldn't touch it here. It's stuck. So they're deciding whether they want to go to 228 or 260. And mini lines to watch, 240 and 251. So those are your lines. You take out 251, you have a good chance of getting to 262 plus, like a new high. If you lose the 241, 240, you might retest the recent lows at 235. And if you lose that, you might get to 230. That would be a better entry. You see these huge pivot, those will be excellent support zones. Okay, but this is not the same as owning physical gold. No, Jimmy. Because physical gold can be, like, if we end up in a zombie apocalypse, you can use physical gold. You can't say, oh, I'll give you a couple of GLDs. It doesn't work the same. Combination of both would be good. HIMS, that was the best buy of dip ever. Look at the P&L, growing fast, and it's growing so fast that Amazon wants to be in on it. So you remember, I tell you forever, for decades, I've been saying to people, don't listen to the news. Don't listen to the news. You're going to make mistakes. They're not in the business of making you money. They're in the business of just making themselves money. And they, even if they hurt you, if you sold it or shorted it on the quote news that it's been Amazoned, you fell prey to the news. The news was months ago. Amazon has been in the business for a minute, or at least advertising to be in the business. So it wasn't news. It's just when CNBC decided to push the story, or Yahoo, whoever pushed it. So look at that, buy the dip mode. I wouldn't go long here. Just buy the dip. Next time it drops towards 26 or lower, it'll be a nice swing trade opportunity. If you own it for an investment, keep it. Honeywell. Long resistance line. So 240 resistance, 248, really big resistance. You take it out, you can get to 256. Otherwise, I think it's easier to just drift lower towards 222, 218 would be a base. You have support all the way down to 208. So you can do with that what you want. Sell put spreads, depends on what your intentions are. I mean, this is a global company that recently broke out from 219, 217 area. Coming back to that area would be natural and would be okay. No earnings, not for 60 days. Hood, everything I said about coin, I say here. I don't want to touch it. Like, what are they thinking? Yeah, I don't want to play basketball against cheaters. I would rather play a good game of basketball where it's an even fight. Here you have Reddit people, you have whoever invested it up here during the pandemic. I mean, fundamentally, it's not great. It's not bad, but it's not great. Let's see the valuations. I don't know if you're trading or investing. Let's look at the statistics. All right, so price to sales is 14. It's way too expensive, just like Palantir. Great company. This is not a great company here. Palantir is a great company, but the price to sale is 60. That's 60 years worth of sales if you buy the shares now. This one, 14 years. Well, it's not so much that it's a lot lower than 60. It's high, but it's high relative to itself. So if you say, okay, this was a bargain in Q4 of 2022. Now it's almost 3 times more expensive. So 2022, Q4. So somewhere around here makes sense. Up here, it doesn't. So if I'm an investor, I most definitely would not touch it up here. If I'm a trader, I would just leave it alone or try to short it somehow without a lot of risk, like a debit put butterfly to aim to get to 33. So I would buy a put close to 36. Not to issue a trade alert here. The concept is I want the price to come down towards 33. So that's my sweet spot. If I'm doing a butterfly, I want the things I sell somewhere around 32 for it to fall into that and me making a quick buck. Not for me, but that's what I would do if you twist my arm. Intel, if you bought it as an investment turnaround story down here, forget about it. Don't trade it. Don't sell cover calls. Don't nothing. Just sit on them for years and see if it comes back. If you're trading it and bought the dip, this is where you start exiting because you're going into a prior neckline. So there's no good story here. Okay, they took a write down. What this $16 billion write down? You better know what the hell's going on. Okay, so I know they're going to cut it up to make it look something different. Talk about, so consider Apple. This is Apple. It was Apple for computer brains, right? And then it had a couple of competitors that were a joke. Up until a couple of years ago, a few years ago, I don't know exactly when that happened, it was larger than AMD and NVIDIA put together twice over. And look what happened to it. Anyway, this is a turnaround story, but they might cut it up to look something completely different. So as an investment, long shot, I get it. If you bought the dip, kudos. That was a good, smart move. Sell puts to own shares, maybe. If you missed it, down here's the darn it, I wish I'd owned it at 20. Well, sell a $20 put. You can own it at 20 if you want to. And you can use the money to buy a call in the money. That's a leap. Yeah, I don't know what that is. Okay, IONQ. What are you doing here? What is this? It's nothing but spending. Is this an energy company? Oh, yeah, quantum computers. Okay. Here's the thing. There's no Santa Claus. There's no such thing as a quantum computer for us. Quantum computing is cool. Just make sure that this is the company that's going to bring it and make money out of it. Okay. I did not delve deep into it, but I know there's nothing I can buy, right? So the applications are still at a very high level. This reminds me of when I was younger, in my 20s, I think. I forget exactly when. Somebody brought me a headline. Look at this 3D printer. I was like, what? Yeah, we were working. I was at a Xerox machine, as they called it back then, at a photocopier machine. Beast. Look at this 3D printer. It costs $1 zillion, but look at what cool. It can print things in 3D. Yep, that's where we're at with this one. It's going to be the thing of the future, maybe. But let's see if they can make money at it. So as an investment, all right, do your homework, pick your entry point. As a trading chart, nothing here I can tell you about this, except they're buying dips in a very sharp rising wedge. What? Oh my God. Ugh. Okay. Yeah, no thanks. You would never convince me to touch this with any money whatsoever. Never in a million years would I ever touch anything like this up here. If you did your homework and you grabbed it down here, even at 20, I get it. At 36 or 40, at the pandemic levels, when markets are at all-time highs and everything else is at all-time highs, it's just not for me. The chart won't help you except to tell you that there is a buy the dip moment. If you want to buy it into 31 or 30, you're doing the right thing. JP Morgan, I am short and losing money. I needed to close here or lower, literally, to win. And I'm not folding my tickets, if that's what you're asking about. Banks are pretty far distended. And I don't know based on what. I think the the impression that there's going to be deregulation, to that I push back. Very top level statement. I did not read into the details, but the way I'm thinking about it is that we have already had a Trump administration and they've already deregulated whatever they wanted to and whatever they could. What deregulation specifically are we chasing this time? Can someone tell me? Like, what is it? What is the deregulation that is making the banks not make as much money as they could? I think the Fed is the one making the banks the most money because they're cutting rates, which is the rate that the banks borrow at. And the banks on the street are not lowering the rates for us, right? Mortgages are still high, car loans are still high, credit card loans are still high, the interest rates. So the banks are pocketing more money. So the Fed rate cuts is not to help you and me, but to help the banks. Maybe that's the thesis. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then there's a limit to that. You can milk the cow only so many times a day. So I don't know why would anyone start along in JP Morgan at this level. Technically, it's in the hands of the bulls, but it has a giant gap that I bet it will have to fill before it makes a much higher high. I am short via bear call spread. I don't think I added puts or put spreads, but I could do it with stops, of course. Coca-Cola, we shorted it up there, made a ton. Do we want to go long down here? It's not bad. You do have solid support from recent history, 62.5 or lower. You might have a catalyst at 65. So if they make a higher high than last week, they might be able to get to 66.5 to the white arrow. But you should know that, you know, they fell from super high levels. It's not like they're going to the highs. They fell from crazy levels. Like KO was making a higher high than NVDA. Crazy. Remember, we shorted it and Colgate and a bunch of other stocks. Target 1 and 2, target 2 is 60, believe it or not. So here's a scenario, not a forecast, but a scenario you should be aware of. If they cannot break out of here, they can drift and retest this. That is target 2. $60. Target 3 is well below that. Let's not look at that. I'm going to delete this, whatever that is. Okay, so the bounce was good. I don't think it's reasons to get long here unless you're trading fast. Kroger, another one I don't understand. Earnings in 4 days, going to the moon. Expectations might be overblown. I don't know that they are, but they might be. So this is April highs. Wow, this guy was making highs when the market was crashing. Interesting statement there. If you were to tell me where would you get long, I would say it for 52. Up here is too high for me. Just buy the dip like the market has been doing. Repeat, rinse and repeat. Okay, so let's copy it from here to here. Maybe you can do it again. Yeah, that's the idea. I would buy the dip. I wouldn't get long here. KTOS. Didn't you hear? We have world peace. We don't need defense companies. Okay. 28.50 is a catalyst to get to 30.5, maybe 31. Otherwise, I would buy dips into 25.50 or 25. You like this one? What do you like about it? I definitely don't like this one. Look left. This has been a failing zone for a long time. So from an investment perspective, it could drift higher towards 30. From a trading perspective, I would buy dips, or from an investment perspective, I would sell puts to buy it lower. This way I don't have to wait. The product is amazing. Yeah, what is it? What does it sell? You know about defense? No, I know, but what does it sell? Provision of mission critical products. Nuclear power plants. Mission critical nuclear power plants. Okay. If you say so, I would sell a put into 23 or lower confidently to own the shares. I see. Yeah, well, that makes sense. LAZ. Lazard. What does Lazard do? Financial advisory and asset management firm. Yeah, so that's basically a black hole bank. Yeah. Along with banks, I'm not in favor of starting investments at these levels. This one might have a big dip in it, but just because that's what it does. It rallies big and it falls big and rallies big and it falls big and it rallies big and falls big, and now it's rallying big. Wait for it to fall big or short it if you can. Into 65, I would take the opposite side of this trade. I would not be trying to get long. I would be locking profits, selling aggressive calls against my shares, or just flat out shorting it. I don't know anything about it, so I personally would not touch it. Lockheed, we did well with this. I think we timed it well, and the short worked, and I still think it's not cheap. I think this one needs to come down to 480. See that yellow box? I think it should come down to the bottom of the yellow box in a series of lower lows and lower highs. The red box up there needs revisiting as well if they ever go up there, but that can stand there for years. I don't know how sensitive it is to headlines from Trump. He's if the Trump administration, he ran on the I will end the war and I will throw tariffs, right? So this should be inconsequential to this company. So this one will have to do the heavy lifting on its own. Technically speaking, once they lost 550, they're going to fill the yellow box. So if you're going to engage on the long side, I would suggest doing credit put spreads, credit spreads of sorts, or buying calls and selling aggressive calls against them. LULU, not an obvious entry point, wide resistance zone, that big green box if you look left, and it could drift to 292, 293 would be normal. If it gets to 270, it would also be normal. That's where it broke out from, 280. If it comes back to it, it would be normal. I wouldn't short it for that, but you should know that there's support, but also the need to check back. McDonald's, we shorted it and we got a miracle headline that undid a miracle pop. In case you don't remember, we were here short somewhere, doing fine, and then somebody upgraded it the day I took the trade, or the day after. Boom. Actually, not somebody, like 3 or 4 companies upgraded at the same time with no earnings report. That was very strange and manipulative. They got everybody to buy it, right? And they were probably shorting against it. Who's they? The people that wrote the articles and the people that released it on their asking. It never happens that 2 or 3 companies upgrade a company at the same time out of nowhere. Why would they do that? Like, if there was no earnings report, there was no headline from the company, and 2 or 3 investment houses come out with the same upgrade. Isn't that suspect to anybody? It is to me. But luckily, unluckily, somebody died, I believe, sadly. But we got lucky, and the short worked on this dip. Why do I mention this? Because it gave us the bottom, and they are testing it. 284 or lower is a bottom, because this was a health scare, and they tested it once. And 304, I think, will stand as a top for a long time. I said vulnerable. It did that arrow, so that arrow is old. And you have support into 284 and resistance into 306 and 304. What are you going to do with that? You're going to sell a put spread, maybe sell a call spread, iron condors. There's not much to do. MDB, I would buy dips. I wouldn't get engaged long here. If I look left, that's a problem area from whatever happened on the earnings in 2024 May. And anything below 300 should be solid support. And it's a pretty wide zone. So if I'm an investor looking to buy 100 shares, I would sell a put in that zone, wherever level I want it. I don't know if I would buy calls, but I mean, it's not crazy. But I would finance them by selling some put spreads. Okay, this is a database company, I believe. So earnings in 8 days, I probably wouldn't do anything into the earnings. Materials company looking to break out. If I look left, this is not a good area to start along. Yes, they're overcoming this prior fail at 20.7, but you have all of this above you. So approaching 22, there's some old problems to deal with on the chart. Buying the dip was phenomenal. I don't know what happened here. November 20th, what happened here? I'm not sure. Long tails these days. I would monitor the next few days. I think it can come down to 1980, 20 or 1980. I would probably wait a couple of days before I go long. Monolithic is falling into a pretty wide support zone, I think, right? It's a better long than a short after this dip for a trade up to 725. So you could get a bounce if the market allows it. They want to do the bounce in a couple of steps. Okay. Stupid. Those are available. But the support zone is wide. You see that box that says weak base? I'm afraid that if they have a red week, they might slip and start it from 500. So credit put spread, debit call spread combination where I put no money out of pocket would be the only way I would trade this. If you're buying calls, they must be expensive. It's a big stock. Be careful. Make sure you do diagonals. Let me see short term. Did we get any information? It's hard. Sellers at 680 for sure. Sellers at 640. Merck, did they bounce? They did. So if you're a trader, you want it to get to 105 because you might get to 109. Until then, you have a big box to deal with. I can't believe I don't have it drawn. The last earnings reaction box. You're right in the middle of it. I don't think you can get out of it for a long time. So if you want to sell some put spreads below that, some call spreads above that as a trade, that might be a thing. Moderna. All right, so if I shorted Moderna, Tom, I would be out. If I ever wanted to own Moderna stock and I didn't buy it on this dip, what are you waiting for? I'm not a fan of this whole industry, but this is the base. Selling a put in the 20s, I mean, that's not crazy at all for somebody that wants to own shares. You're waiting for zero. Well, they have sales again, so they have a couple of $1 billion in revenues. I don't know on what. You should look into the revenues. What are these revenues from? So don't discount them just because how much Wall Street loves it. So at some point they might sell it as a pretty good investment idea. I know smart people that believe in it. I don't know if they've changed their mind since then, but I respect them enough to not short it here. Okay, this one is a short. I guess it hit the dip. So here's the statement. Get to 96 or 97 so you'd avoid 84. Get to 96 so you'd avoid 84. Earnings in 2 days. I wouldn't touch it. If it dips on earnings, I'll step up to the plate maybe. I shorted this one, got out with a little bit of green. I left a lot of money on the table. It's just an idiotic stock. The guy is brilliant. If you want to learn about money, the value of things, including crypto, you can listen to him talk. Investing in this company, you're overpaying for Bitcoin. It's cheaper to invest in Bitcoins than it is to buy this stock. It's very, very expensive, like very. It's not a P&L story. You can't look at the PE, price of sales, or anything. It's a balance sheet story. Like, what do they own? They own the most volatile asset that has ever existed. So let me ask you this. What do you think happens to this stock if Bitcoin crashes? And you say it's not going to crash. It crashes every year. Bitcoin crashes every year. When Bitcoin crashes, it's not a matter of if, when Bitcoin crashes, the stock will get demolished. So what makes it a good investment? Better than Bitcoin? That's my question to everybody that loves this stock. Maybe you have an answer, and I would love to hear it. Let's debate it in the comments. Tell me your thought process, so I would shut up about it. Technically, if you lose 340, you're going to lose or test 283. 340 will bring 283. Okay? And the support is not until like in the 220 area. That's my take on it. Think about it. If the stock rises consistently, and this is the consistent rise of the stock, you need to be inside that zone. And if you want the technicals of why I think it will go this low, that's one reason. And that's I'm going to make it smaller. I'm spending so much time here because the amount of interest in this stock this last couple of weeks is off the chain. I mean, it's giving me anxiety as much as people are excited about it. You get the point now? And I didn't even go to here. This is a head and shoulders in the making, which I don't subscribe to like that. I know that if you lose this one, it might start a long dip. This is the visual in case you're wondering what I'm talking about. And the downside is from here to here. And this can go all the way to here and it would still qualify. So it can rally. I'm not saying that. But if you're looking to get a bargain, you better time your entries right. Micron. They better hold last week's low. Otherwise, you'll find yourself at 91 and 90. 17 days until their next earnings. So they need a story to have it bounce up to 105. That's the zone. They're ping-ponging between 96 and 107. Good entry. Well, depends what's good. I'm not a fan of the company, but they have delivered 3 or 4 good consecutive reports, 3 consecutive improving reports. I want to see that to continue. Otherwise, I'll call bull on it again. Valuation is okay. Good entry. If you're long already, I wouldn't add. If we lose 95-ish, we may end up in the 80s. If we lose 84, we may end up in the 68. So I can tell you a really nasty scenario that brings us to 68 or lower. I'll lift it up a little bit. It's not my forecast, but it's a possibility. Conversely, if you take out all these fails, you get to 140, and at which point I will short it again. So right now, you can argue both sides. If you love it, you can get long, sure. If you hate it, you will short rallies. First problem is 106. Second problem was 114. Take out 114 or 115, you're gone. Gone much higher. I don't know what the appetite to do with 17 days until the earnings. Netflix. You can trade it indirectly, by the way, through the SMH or something. Netflix, don't short it. It's too high. It's a good investment company. The entry for the investment is not up here for me. 720 or lower, 700 or lower for me as an investor. Nick, that's going to take so long. Yeah, exactly. You missed it. Admit it to yourself. Where's the fire? If I'm looking to invest in Netflix for the future, tell me the logic of doing it now. Just tell me the logic, and I will debate it with you. Just put it in the notes section. Nick, it can go to 1,050, but you missed it already. So you're missing out on another 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%. You're opening yourself up for 25% correction over time. I don't get it. You missed this one. The markets have never been higher, and this one has never been higher. I think you can wait another couple of weeks to figure the fudge out. Let's see valuations. All right. I don't want to talk PEs because, let me see, does it grow? It grows double digits, 14, 15%. Okay. Let's go statistics. Forget the PE. Let's look at price to sales. On an annual. Why do you keep changing on me here? All right. So 2019, 2020, 21, it's 9, 4, 6, 10. This is the most expensive it's been since 2008 on a price to sales. It's not outrageous, barely double digits, but it's the most relative to itself. So if you want to buy it on the cheap, this is not it. Nike, if you bought it on the cheap, you did well. Buying it here is not for me. It's not bad, but it's just not for me. The closer you can get it to 74 or lower, the better. If you can sell a put there to own shares, that's fine, but I don't think it'll give you much premium for it. The P&L is dropping a little bit, so competition is there. A bunch of little boutique companies coming out like on, and I forgot the other one's name. Technically, break 80, you can get to 84. At which point, if I bought it for an investment, I would be out because I would trade it. I'm not investing in anything right now up here. I would not start any investment. ServiceNow, like, what is there to be said? What is the question here? Good P&L, solid, top and bottom line. This much solid? I don't know. I wouldn't start longs here. This is the most definite nope. Not an obvious point of entry from the chart. The price to sales is 20, almost 21. Do they grow? They do grow double digits, so they deserve a premium in the price to sales, and they've been this expensive before. I'd have to go back to 2021. So the top of the pandemic. Now you're deciding to buy it. Interesting. Okay. So it's not for me up here. I wouldn't short it, although it is shortable, but very gently, like a stupid wide debit put spread financed by credit call spread might work. But I don't know why anyone would short it. I mean, I don't know much about it. I'll put it on the trading, on my trading list if I ever want to pick a fight with somebody. NTNX, wow, pretty big dip on what? No idea. What do they do? Cloud platform, web scale. That's pretty significant selling in a short period of time. Falling into a zone of support that extends through 61. If you lose 60, you're probably going to end up at 56. So I'll rephrase. Let me rephrase. As long as they are below 72, they have a chance of getting down to 58. That's about it. NVIDIA, best company on the planet. You will not find a better P&L this year in anywhere, in any stock that looks better than this, in any mega cap stock. Probably any stock, period, that is better than this one or that one. You will not. The net income in 2023 is larger than the sales in 2022. The net income. On a quarterly basis, it's equally as impressive. Just mind-boggling stuff. 141 is a problem. 145 is a problem. If you lose 131, you're going to go to 125, 124. 126 has been a huge, huge turnaround number. 118 as well. They better not trigger that head and shoulders. Okay, so they need to hold this one right here. If not, they do have downside. This one probably immediately. Target 1, I would call it. And much, much lower than that if you want to be aggressive with it. The total, I'm not going to put a picture of the total because then it will look ridiculous. I'll get people that say, oh, this guy. Resistance anywhere above 142. I don't know about impossible. You guys tell me. They keep doing it and they keep forecasting highs, so they're not going to forecast something that's not coming. Oak, don't lose 109. You'll find yourself at 103. 118 is a trigger to get a couple more bucks above that. I don't know much about it. If you look left, let's see, do we see anything? Or is this an all-time high? It is an all-time high. OKTA. Okay, it was a good buy the dip opportunity. Right now it isn't. I would buy the dip into 75. You can sell a put spread down there in the low 70s. Oh, earnings in 2 days. I wouldn't do anything. I tell you what, come to me during the day before they report the earnings and we'll look at the options. Maybe it gives us a clue. If they take out 81, they can get to 88. Okay. Are you serious with this question? Okay. What do you want from me? What do you want? What do you want? Okay. No comment. Chart not going to help you. Pfizer. Same, anything I said about Moderna, I would say here differently. This company actually has a forecast, has an income other than the vaccine. So I wouldn't mind getting invested in this one. 25 is a good solid base. It might be the target as long as they hold 24.40. If they lose 24.40, you might get another entry in the low 20s. I would invest in this company. I would for the long term, just because they're not going to go away, even though they're off their highs. It was an okay buy the dip moment. You might get another opportunity. Anything above 27 is difficult. So I'm not saying it's going to go back to the moon. I said investment. If somebody wants to hold a basket of stocks for the long term, I wouldn't mind taking half of a position here. And if it goes down to 18 or 19, I would add the second half and forget about it for years. Okay, thanks. Okay. Close at 142 at debit call spread on NVIDIA. Yes, it depends on your time frame. 1220, you have time. Yeah, finance it with a credit put spread. I'm answering somebody's question. So that time doesn't kill you. So you'd have some time soldiers working for you. Palantir. I'm all in. No, I'm not. I forgot they put transcripts. Okay, I am not all in. I am definitely not. I am short. I'm short Palantir and not losing a lot of money because I was short long term, bullish short term. So I bought a put out in time and I sold the put shorter in time. Amazing price action, completely expensive relative to itself, like unbelievable. We were buyers down here and along these, but up here I'm definitely not. You can hold it if you're an investor in it, but valuation is through the roof. It's 60 price to sales, maybe more now. That it's 61 and change. That was 55 just a few days ago. So you see how the stock price is outpacing the sales. So when you give a company credit for so much price to sales like NVIDIA and then it doubles next quarter, I get it. But this one is not doubling. It's just growing modestly. I mean, modestly. It's growing at a good clip, but nowhere near the speed with which the stock price is growing. Quarter to quarter is in the 30s. Let's go annual. It's definitely respectable growth, but nowhere near the speed with which the stock is growing. Evidence is that the price to sales was 55, I think, last week, and it's 61 and change now. So the stock price is rising faster than their sales. So that metric needs to normalize. Two ways it can normalize. They grow faster than they are already, or the stock drops drastically and they meet in the middle. Zoom, that was happening. It was growing fast, but not as fast as the sales. That number for Zoom was in the 130s to 140s. That means it's 130 years. This one has 61 years baked into it. Not for me. Buy the dip. Where? I don't know. 38. What? It will never be there. You want to bet? Okay. Oh, and that's the end of the second video.